I think the term feminist comes with a lot of misconceptions anyway. Does feminist witchcraft have its own misconceptions? Are there some common ones that you want to dispel?
Absolutely. I think the biggest one that happens in the US, and it is unfortunately grounded in a reality that is practiced by some groups, is that it is exclusionary to trans women. And that has been, it's one of the things about some of the writers who changed my life also broke my heart when I realized that they had a very narrow definition of who was allowed in women's spaces. I talk about it in the book, in the spaces that I'm in, and increasingly in the more feminist and politicized witchcraft spaces I'm in. It's very clear that if we're talking about women, we're also talking about trans women. And even to open that conversation to talk about non-binary folks who feel most comfortable in the spaces that foreground the experience of women and trans people. So that's huge. And that's probably the one that I have to dispel the most often, especially if I host like a public moon circle or something like that. I have to be very clear in my language that it is an open and welcoming space. And I've done a little writing about the things that I learned as a facilitator, things that I had never questioned until I had people who were in my community that said, "Oh, actually." So that is a big one. There's the assumption that I think just goes with feminists that like we all hate men. And I'm like, well, first of all, way to make everything about you. Like if being a feminist is first and foremost it's reassuring men that you don't hate them, you've made it about men, and that stinks. Men can be feminists too. And some feminist witchcraft circles welcome men and some don't. I have done both over my time. So I think that idea is really important, or that to be in a feminist witchcraft space, you have to be a lesbian. And there were some circles in the early days where you had to either be a lesbian or a non-practicing heterosexual woman, which that is not something that's ever been part of my practice. I have been in circles that were primarily lesbian and bisexual women, but not because we asked you at the door. I'm like, how would we even prove that? Like,
I'm just wondering how you would prove it.
I was like, okay, you say you're a lesbian. Here's an IKEA bookshelf. You have 15 minutes. Like what?
Oh no, I can build flat packs.
See, that's the thing, right? You're bisexual? Sit in this chair. Both your feet are on the floor. Get out of here. I don't know how we would even do that. But it is a misconception, and it sometimes, I think, keeps women and other folks who would really benefit from those spaces from being in them.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's also an idea that this is something that's just for white women, and a lot of early spaces were very white, but there were also women of color, particularly Black women, who were writing in a feminist witchcraft space right alongside a lot of those things in the 90s. And they had a lot of focus on, reclaiming root work and ancestral traditions here in the US. And I think it's important to know that that's there. And now, paganism in the US is getting less white than it historically has been. Although,
we are over here.
Maybe that's my next anthropological study. There's a lot of there.
Yeah.
But it is not inherently sort of a white woman's practice. As a white woman who facilitates these spaces, I've had to learn a lot, and have been lucky to have people in my community who've helped me grow in that way. Because you only know what you know, and to incorporate perspectives from women and non-binary folks whose lived experience is not mine, so that the spaces we create together can still be empowering, has been a huge sort of journey. I find less of the really negative stereotypes now. I remember actually one of the ones that struck me, and I still laugh about it because it was so out of pocket, is I said something about being a feminist witch, and it was another woman who said to me, I was like, "Oh, So you're there are those women who like free bleed in the woods and think the only thing that's important about you is your vagina, right? And I was like,
were you polite in your answer?
I was like, I don't even know how to get a toehold on this. I was like, well, I guess that's a thing. And certainly in a lot of feminist circles, especially back in the 70s and the 80s, where it was very like radical with small r feminism that looked at the belief that there was a biological, like fundamental biological differences between how men and women show up in the world. There was a lot of work around reclaiming bodily processes like menstruation, like childbirth, and that's important, right? And so it's like, well, okay, so we talk about those things with the recognition that not every woman menstruates, not everybody who menstruates is a woman, but like it's not really the focus of what we do. And if that's what you've run into by being practiced by people who use the same words for their practice as I do, and if that hurt you, like I'm sorry that happened, but I kind of think it probably didn't. I think it was probably one of those things. It's this game of telephone. That like what are they doing out there? These women in the woods. So and there is something that can be very primal about some of the gatherings I've gone to. Like I've run through the woods under the full moon and howled. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's just general witchcraft.
That's just general
doesn't
witchcraft.
Everybody
Again,
do that? I don't know.